What's up, Average Dad fans? Welcome back to another video. There's a phone that most of the world uses, that your favourite YouTube creators use almost every day of their life, including me. Hopefully I'm one of your favourite creators. And it gets almost zero love. Let's talk. Now, of course, you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, I'm talking about the iPhone 15 Pro Max. For me personally, my channel is dedicated to foreign phones imported from China, foldable devices, 99.9% of which are obviously Android devices. But 100% of those videos I create are filmed on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. 100% of those videos that I edit are done on the MacBook Pro, which speaks to my 15 Pro Max as far as airdrop and file transfer seamlessly. So it got me thinking, I think it's about time, after 6 months with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, that I do a full review. And yes, I know you have almost zero interest because you watch me for Android foldable Chinese ROM devices. But please, if you care about my opinions, just listen up. I am not here to convert you and say that the iPhone is the best phone and you should buy it. On the contrary, I think if you can afford to and have a need to, like I do for content creation, it would be great if you could all own 2 phones. I know that's unrealistic, cost of living, all that stuff, but I have an argument that iPhones are their own separate thing. They are just almost like brushing your teeth and owning a bed. An iPhone is convenient and integral to certainly my life, like brushing my teeth. Now, I know that's all not making sense, but ultimately, in my full review, I will follow the same 5 categories: build quality, design, software, cameras, and price. 5 points available in each category. For reference, the Samsung S24 Ultra is joint top with 21.5 points at the top of the leaderboard with the OPPO Find X7 Ultra. Before you get to the end of the video, pop in the comments what score you think the iPhone 15 Pro Max will get. And I'm going to try and be as objective as possible, like I am with every review. So without further ado, let's go. So for the first category, it's build quality. And it's an iPhone. If you've ever owned an iPhone, hands up if you've ever had anything go wrong with the hardware itself. I have owned an iPhone from the iPhone 3, and I have never, bar one occasion where the screen smashed, had an issue with any of the hardware. And by the way, the screen smashing wasn't me dropping it, it was my wife dropping the phone. And she paid for it. Not just financially. I'm joking. Don't cancel me. So, I've had zero issues with hardware. Now, sticking directly with the 15 Pro Max, it's got the ceramic shield glass on front, which in my experience, and as you can see here, this phone is nearly 6 months old, there is not a scratch, not even a micro scratch on this screen. And I have never put a screen protector on any of my iPhones. That's pretty incredible. Now, we also have to discuss the titanium, the space grade titanium. Well, it's not a gimmick. This is space grade titanium. Jerry Rig Everything showed us that. While no, there's not tons of the stuff on the phone. The frame and certain other parts of the internals are titanium. And in this stunning blue colour, again, I have zero dents, scratches, anything at all. This is essentially a pristine condition phone still. Even round the charging port, which you obviously have to constantly look around, especially at night time, to plug it in. Zero issues. Now, the phone is IP68 water and dust resistant. You can go swimming for this. iPhone have their own kind of measuring scale. Apple do things differently. Apple, you can go 1.5 meters for 30 minutes in a swimming pool and the phone will be fine. But Apple go that step further, and I believe they go 3 meters for 30 minutes in a swimming pool. That's a deep swimming pool though. So yeah, no issues whatsoever regarding any aspect of the build quality. And ceramic shield, the only reason I will not give this 5 out of 5 for build quality is because of the S24 Ultra and its implementation of that anti-reflective glass. It's been pretty game-changing for me. Now that's clearly, as you can see here, not something the iPhone has. So I'm taking half a point off. The iPhone is getting 4.5 out of 5 for build quality. And for the next category, we move on to something far more subjective. It's very hard to not have, strong opinions on this. It's design. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is not winning any awards. We can't give this a high score because it looks like 12, 13, 14 Pro Max. It's the same device done over and over. And only right now, in the whole global phone market, only Apple are the ones doing this. Regurgitating that same design. Samsung have changed their design in the last couple of years. OPPO, Xiaomi, they're all making changes to their design. Apple are sticking with the same. So build quality scored high, but design for me, while not an offensive looking phone, it needs a refresh. So this is a quick round. I like that you can get in different colours. That gets, some kudos from me. But they're pretty bland this year, other than the blue one I got, which some would argue is still a bit bland. The blue one's probably the most visually stunning one. I have to say that design is just tired at this point from Apple, and hopefully they'll do something. I understand what they're trying to do. Everybody knows an iPhone, your mum, your gran, your great-gran. They all know what an iPhone looks like and what they're expecting. But come on, Apple. Just give us something a bit more exciting. So with all that being said, 2.5 out of 5. It's not offensive. It's not good. And it's definitely not great. And now we get on to the software category. For the one and only time of the year generally where I review the iPhone, granted this is 6 months later, but this is the only time I'll review a software that is different from Android. And iOS, whether you want to believe it or not, is probably the best. I'm not deliberately trying to piss off Android fans, because I am an Android fan. My daily driver is the S24 Ultra. I've had about 12 Android devices so far this year. But software-wise, no bugs, no glitches, no crashing, seamless integration with my iPad, my MacBook Pro, my Apple Watch Ultra, my AirPods Pro 2. Everything for my use case scenario just works seamlessly. AirDrop to transfer large, huge video files takes seconds to transfer to my laptop, which I can then use in editing. Right now, my video feed goes through OBS Studio. I've got that streaming right now, and that's where I get the video footage from. So software-wise, because of Apple, as soon as I click my Stream Deck Plus, hit the little green button for OBS to open, this automatically opens because of the virtual continuity camera that iOS has built in. There's a million things I could go on about the software and the ease for you, from accessibility to privacy. The one area I will say that Android always has the upper hand is that customization. Other software features that we don't talk about a lot and I don't mention a lot is biometrics. Apple have the strongest and most secure biometric on the planet with Face ID. Other Android manufacturers have tried with 3D cameras on the selfie, but they're not as secure. You can't use your Honor Magic 6 Pro to unlock your banking apps, for example. You have to use your fingerprint. And because Face ID is so good in low light and obviously daylight, Apple have never felt the need to integrate a fingerprint sensor. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a positive, but Face ID just, works every time. Now, I've also talked about in the software category historically, I would mention other internals and battery. Now, internals wise, the A17 Bionic chip is class leading. Obviously, that's the only phone that uses this, but it is class leading. The one thing I will say is, for the past 2 or even 3 years, the Qualcomm Snapdragon chip has absolutely come on a par, and in some aspects with gaming, overtaken the A17 or the A series chip from Apple. But efficiency-wise, what Apple can get from their small 4,200 milliamp hour, and I'll fact check this, it might even be smaller than that in the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the amount of battery life they can drain through efficiencies from that smaller cell compared to a beast like the 5,000 milliamp hour in the S24 Ultra or the 5,400 milliamp hour in the Vivo X100 Pro, what Apple can draw from the 20% smaller battery gives it better battery life than those phones I just mentioned. And if you are a hardcore gamer, the iPhone can cope, don't worry. If you want to edit videos directly on your phone using iMovie, you can do that too. If you want to shoot 4K for 5 hours, the iPhone can do that. So software-wise, again, a lot of this is biased, or not biased, but a lot of this based on my use case scenario, which productivity-wise is tied in with my MacBook. And for that reason, I'm giving Apple software a 4.5 out of 5. I would love to be able to customize a home screen more and change like a charging animation or Face ID animations, but until that day, it can't get 5 out of 5. So, going into the penultimate category, the iPhone is on 11.5 out of a potential 15 points. The penultimate category is cameras. And for this category, I feel like I need like a protective shield, like riot gear, because I'm going to be talking about some controversial stuff here. First statement that is going to potentially annoy you. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has the best camera system in the world. Hear me out. None of the individual lenses are the best in the world. I would argue that none of the actual photos that this phone takes when you compare them to other phones are the best in the world. But the video, best in class. No, it doesn't do 8K, but do you use 8K? Really? The 4K video from all lenses and the 4K video on the selfie are for me the best. And when I say the best camera system and setup, I'm including the app. The default camera app is just simple. Anybody, and this is the benefit of Apple, anybody can pick up the iPhone, hit the camera app, and just use it straight away. Everything's laid out in a clear and simple way. The zoom during video is smooth. The zoom between all lenses, so transitioning from one lens to the other, is smoother than on any other Android device. And you know this because in every Android review that you've watched, even including mine, what people will always say is, this is the most smooth transition between lenses for an Android device. Still not as good as iPhone. That's always a caveat. And same with video stabilization and clarity and sharpness and colors. This is the best video on this Android device. Almost as good as the iPhone. And that's the biggest compliment iPhone could get when it comes to video. And then portraits, while there are some, like the Vivo X100 Pro, I believe delivers some of the best portrait photography on the planet, but the iPhone also is very close and it's far more consistent. I sometimes have 5 or 6 mobile phones on my desk at any time. If I need to take a picture of something quick or a video of the kids, the iPhone is always the one I reach for. And that's just because it's going to be reliable. I know I am going to get an 8 out of 10 shot out of my iPhone every single time. With the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, I might get a 10 out of 10 shot once in a while, but I'm also going to get a 4 or 5 out of 10 shot. There are almost zero occasions in nighttime, daytime, photography, videography, where the iPhone falls below an 8 or a 7 out of 10. Think of it for UK fans or football/soccer fans as the Gary Neville of phones. Gary Neville was a right back for Manchester United who consistently delivered a 7 or 8 out of 10 performance. He was never man of the match per se, he never scored goals, but he always showed up, he was reliable, and he constantly performed to a very good level. And that's what the iPhone gives me in the camera round. So with all that being said, would I like Apple to start introducing like 100 times zoom that was sharp and clear? Of course I would. But with the zoom lens specifically, they've now changed it to a 5x zoom. It used to be the 3.2, but now it's 5x. So it's a bit more versatile compared to the 14 Pro Max. And that's for me a reason why I'm giving it a slightly higher score. It now competes up to 30 times zoom. The iPhone zoom pictures are as good as anything on the planet. Once you get past that, they start to lose their clarity a little bit. But what iPhone do, what Apple do deliberately, is just don't allow you to go to 100 times zoom. This is a 5 times optical zoom lens. The 14 Ultra and the S24 Ultra, they'll let you go to 100 or 120 times X digital zoom and let you take this almost potato-like photo before all the post-processing. iPhone are just like, nah, we're not letting you do that. Go to 50 times and that's your whack because we don't want to provide potato-like images. And I'm all for that. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give the iPhone 15 Pro Max 4 out of 5 for the camera. It's just Mr. Reliable. So going into the final round, price. I have to be fair here, as I always will be, and I've said on record, I can't give a £1,000 plus phone 5 out of 5 for price, no matter how many free gifts you throw at me. £1,000 plus for a phone is too expensive, especially when you look at how much it actually costs the manufacturer. Now that is absolutely amplified when it comes to the iPhone. Apple produce, I don't know, is it 400 million iPhones per year? I think it actually might be more than that, but it's hundreds of millions, not just millions or tens, it's hundreds of millions of iPhones. And with the 15 Pro Max being one of the most popular, you would imagine that with those sales, the manufacturing cost, the profit margin, Apple could and probably should make this a much more reasonably priced device. But they don't. They know that you and your granddad probably want an iPhone. And I say you, not you specifically, because if you're still watching here, you're probably an Android fan. And that's what Apple fall back on all the time. They're the most popular phone on the planet because of reliability, their ease of use, and again, we talked about the camera and the software, all that good stuff. And once you're hooked in the ecosystem, you're kind of, well, that's you. You're hooked. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the iPhone 15 Pro Max should be £999. The smaller Pro variant should be £899. But they don't do that. They want your money. They are not the richest business on the planet for no reason. And with Apple, there's no free gifts. There's no early bird offers like you would get with literally every single manufacturer. You will never see Apple say, come pre-order the 15 Pro Max and get a free Apple Watch Series 9. Apple will not even give you 6 months of YouTube Premium or 6 months of their fitness app. You ain't getting anything. And for the iPhone I have, the 15 Pro Max, your baseline costs is going to be £1,300. If you want the half terabyte, I believe it's £1,350. Wow. So price, I think you know where I'm going with this, is low. Price for the 15 Pro Max is a 2 out of 5. And the reason it's actually getting 2 and not lower is because that build quality costs money. That overall software experience and the fact that the phone is reliable and the camera hardware and all the processing, I know that costs money. So it would be really unfair to give the iPhone less than a 2, but 2 seems right. If they did throw in an Apple Watch Series 9 with your purchase, they would probably move up to 3, maybe even 3.5. But no, the iPhone gets a 2 out of 5 for price. So there we have it. If my maths are correct, and I've done my objective full review, the iPhone 15 Pro Max scores 17 out of 25. So for all the Android fans that thought this was going to be a love fest for Apple and I was going to be biased towards them, no. I am only honest. The iPhone is a phone I will use every day of the week going forward. I have no doubt. It will always be a phone I have. But I'm in a very, very lucky situation where I can have an Android flagship and the iPhone 15 Pro Max at the same time. If you are not immersed in the Apple ecosystem, there are a dozen better phones that you could choose than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But if you do want an iPhone, then I can highly recommend getting the 15 Pro Max. From battery life to cameras and everything I've just discussed. The phone's just a beast, an absolute powerhouse, and, that word again, reliable. Hopefully you've enjoyed this slightly different Apple content. If you want to see more videos like this, then I'm probably not the channel because I do mostly Android, but still, hit the subscribe button. And if you've got any questions or comments, you know what to do. And until next time.